Hi, this is Eric Shu from To Foil a Predator. Welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about the first of a two-part series on how child predators and molesters operate. Today I'll be talking about what I call the molestation cycle, the series of defined, specific, and predictable steps that every child predator uses in order to facilitate their abuse of a child and to try to make sure that they don't get reported. Contrary to popular understanding or belief, child predators don't just start abusing a child one day just like that. Instead, there's actually a build-up process, a series of discrete steps that child predators use to facilitate the abuse and, as I mentioned earlier, to stop children from reporting. The first of these steps is what I call the targeting phase. In this phase, child predators will make sure that they're in an environment, first of all, where they have easy access to children, and that might be volunteering in a child-serving organization. It might be children that are their relatives. It might be children that they see at school. So they access a group, and actually the latest way they access children is through the internet. That's probably the easiest and safest feeling way for a lot of them. So accessing a group of children is first for them. And then they start to target, select. They investigate children. They find out about their backgrounds. They find out whether they like them, first of all, and feel attracted to the child. Then they determine whether or not the child is vulnerable. And in my next video in this series, I'll be talking about what features, what things that might be going on in a child's life might make them vulnerable to child predators and molesters. And needless to say, child predators and molesters are very good at spotting kids that are vulnerable. So in the targeting phase, the molester will look for a child that appeals to him and one that they feel is actually vulnerable to being abused. And once they find a child and incinerate on a child, then starts the next phase in the molestation cycle. And that phase is the grooming phase. Grooming is a technical term that lately has become more popular with, has become more known to the public. Previously, a lot of members of the public didn't really understand what grooming is all about. Now, grooming is actually a series of specific steps by which child predators and molesters try to accomplish a number of things. Now, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a child predator. They know that there are a number of things that are going to make their jobs difficult. If a child sees what they're doing as wrong and is resistant, then that'll make their job more difficult. If a child has a strong support network of people that are going to protect them, then that makes abuse of the child much more difficult. If a child is very sharp and can see what's going on and doesn't like to be tricked and feels that this person is someone that they can't trust, again, it makes the child predator's job much more difficult. So the tactics that a child predator or molester will use in the grooming phase are all designed to nullify these problems. So among the things that they will do in the grooming phase is they will befriend the child, and over whatever period of time, it could be a short period of time, it could be a long period of time, they ingratiate themselves to the child, make it so that eventually the child regards them as their best friend, or at least a trusted friend, and in some cases might even really look up to them and idolize them in the case of coaches or people where they work with kids in a position of extreme authority and extreme influence. Another tactic that child predators will use during the grooming phase is designed to alienate the child from the child's support network. The people that would otherwise get involved and help the child know the people that they're interacting with, and also to protect them from people who might try to abuse them. They will do this through different means, such as convincing the people in the network that the child is a liar, or they might engage in a us against them kind of a discourse with the child, where they might get down to the child's level and explain to them, parents are really difficult sometimes. Sometimes parents are really difficult to, they don't understand what's going on in your life. I do. Let's talk about ways that I can help you thwart your parents' rules and things like that. So they'll do things like that to try to isolate the child so that the child becomes more friendly toward the child predator than their own support network. Something else that the child predator has to overcome is the natural instinct of children that something is wrong. Something is wrong with being touched in areas that they know is wrong, because they've learned that touch in private areas is wrong from good touch, bad touch, or whatever other curricula they have at their school. So children have a pretty good idea that they shouldn't be touched in certain ways. Well, predators know that they need to overcome that also, and they will use mechanisms such as just overstimulation of explainable touch, shoulder rubs, stroking of the hair, tickling, things that they can explain away so that the child gets desensitized to the touch of the molester. They might also throw in some pornography at a young age, especially, that confuses children, and they like using that so that by the time they progress to actually abusing the child, they actually might convince the child that it's good for them, that the child actually wants it, or that the child is just so confused about all the different touch that they simply go along with things. Those are some of the examples of ways that predators and molesters will use different tactics in the grooming process or the grooming stage in order to make the eventual abuse of the child easier. Once the abuser or the molester feels like they can abuse the child and that they can overcome the obstacles, then they'll go ahead and actually start abusing the child. And at that point, the third stage of the molestation cycle begins, and that's when they focus most of their energy on needing to trap the child. In the trapping phase, molesters will use such tactics as guilt. They will convince the child that it's their fault. They might convince them that they seduced the molester, believe it or not, or they might use force. In addition to use of force, predators are also very good at creating means of blackmailing the children. They might film sexual abuse and threaten to distribute it, or they might threaten to make sure that all the child's friends knew what was going on. In any case, during this stage, things are a lot more nasty, and they're designed for one purpose and one purpose only: to make sure the child does not report the abuse. Now, to foil a predator and the underlying predator early warning system, we will focus on the first two stages. And the simple fact of why is because if you focus on the signs and the predictable patterns that are exhibited when predators are engaging in targeting and they're engaging in grooming, and you see it then for what it is and stop them, you can actually stop predators before they get to the abuse stage and to the trapping stage. And so that's the benefit of understanding how it is that predators and molesters actually engage in a lead-up up to the point where they actually abuse children. Once we understand what they need to do, then we can focus on trying to understand what signs they exhibit, and once we understand what signs they exhibit, which to foil a predator is called the predator danger signs, then we know what to look for so that we can see them as early as possible and stop them before they can abuse children. Thank you for joining me for today's video blog. As I mentioned, during my next video blog, which I hope you will also join me for, I will be discussing child predators and how they use different techniques to determine which children are vulnerable, what factors make a child vulnerable, and what parents and professionals can do to nullify those vulnerabilities and make children safe. Thank you. Have a great day.